Hey guys, this is Killrob speaking, and in today's Little Dev Update we are going to tackle 3 topics, and those would be topic number 1, the factory tab, or the first very rough implementation of it. Then we take a look at more characters other than engineers in topic number 2, and round it off with a bit of UI redesign talk for the Unreal Engine. Alright, let's get right into it. In order to best illustrate what is happening on the factory tab, we take a look at this pre-built family car lineup. One model with exactly 5 trims, if I can count. Alright, so this is the R version, which we are going to build a limited series of. And now we head towards the engineering tab. Not much has changed here, as you can see, but well, still needs a lot of polishing, obviously. Alright, so let's keep it like this, and then for every trim you can set the desired reliability focusing work your engineers are doing, and that ups engineering time a lot, as you can see. Making reliable cars is really difficult. Anyway, so what we want is for full production cars, which is implied by this little symbol here in this column, and this is the time it would take if you were just to engineer one of these. And this is the total time it takes, considering that most of them are really similar in most regards. So if we for example say, we don't really need the manual version of the S150, then you can just put it to none. And as you can see, actually nothing changes, because this is basically the same car. The S160A has the same gearbox setup in it, and it shouldn't be exactly the same time. There's still no offset per trim in there, which needs to be in, but generally you can save a lot of time when deactivating the expensive trims, like this one, but not by deactivating mundane trims like this one. But anyway, we're not here for the engineering shit, so let's take a look at this. We activate this one. The status red means it is in design, it has not been engineered yet. So what we want to do is select the S60R and make a limited production car out of it. It takes a bit less engineering time for that, because you don't really have to optimize your tooling for it too much. If it's just 500 cars built overall, then you don't really care, right? So concept, of course, would lower it further, because you don't have to really spend much time thinking about all the reliability issues. So we are setting it to limited production and continuing onwards. Now we have the engines to select, and of course we want the Sports R engine to be a full production engine. So let's continue on here. Alright, so this is not the first factory tab which you will be seeing, but rather the second factory tab. On the first tab you will be seeing your factory layout here in the viewport, with all the add-ons and so on, where you can build new stuff. You can also select your factory in the world or build a new one, whatever, right? But this is the second page of the factory tab. So this will be as follows. You can set your automation level for the factory tooling. You can select the tooling quality. As you can see, all the numbers are already changing and stuff. And the number of shifts your people are going to work on this. This, of course, can be changed later as well, but this is just to give you a clue on what you are getting out of it. And you can select the speed of the individual lines, and that further fine-tunes your output of cars. So let's continue running with 2 shifts, and I think this is in a small or medium factory. I'm not sure. Anyway, this is probably, if you have played other Tycoon games, what you would expect. So let's say the S160R, considering that it's limited production, you can see the 1000 here, and you can change how many cars we ever want to be producing in fine grain and coarse grain, and produce that many at a very high quality threshold, QA threshold, so no bad boys are getting through. And this will mean that if we drag along the slider, you can see the slider action here. Let's say we produce 1 car a day, then the production will last roughly, let's say, 2/3 of a year. So then we lock it, and now when we're changing other sliders, of course this one won't move. And also exactly what you would expect. You probably have seen such sliders before. It's more complicated to calculate all these things in the background than one would assume, but anyway. So let's say this is the base model, the S140, so we want to be producing a lot of cars there. So once we have set that, well, quality, nah, we don't really care about quality for this car. Bastards, they get shit cars. Alright, let's lock this one, and then, yeah, how are we going to want to produce it? You get the idea, right? So you can set your and fine-tune your production output as you want. And that is basically it for the factory tab so far. Of course, there's a lot of information missing. This is not final, and so on and so forth. Lots of more stuff coming, and this is all too cramped, and yeah. Alright, so let's get into topic number 2. In the last little dev update, we talked a lot about the various engineers you would be having in the game, and they have gotten company. And not only by diva engineers, like Heinrich Blumkraut and his ilk, yes, Werner, this is very kind of you to want to help me, but this problem is completely trivial, and let me handle this while you go make me a coffee. People like this, and now they are joined by Winfried Gerter and Hildrun Willems. Of course they are. And these are manager people and marketing people. Of course, with the potential to piss each other off. And they are overlooking either factories in the manager part, or are working on your general company logistics setup, which improves things company-wide for you. And for that they have different skills, as you can see here, as the engineers had different tabs to specialize on. So there will also be research in these areas, where you can put them in as research guys who do the research for your company, while that doesn't give them too much experience which they need in order to level up. But if you put them in a factory, you gain these various bonuses for depending on their skills over here. And that is a reasonable amount of skills here, like lower distribution costs, more production unit output from the same factory, lower retooling costs, or less tooling decay. And then, of course, we have production sigma, and only the most statistician guys of you will know what that means, really. If you can get a star manager, and for example you have a small scale production going on, and you get a small scale producer, which just gets you lots of more production units from a small factory, or maybe you're really into quality and you can just up the quality of your production from one factory by a lot. If you have a small lineup, that might be a huge benefit to your company. But, of course, these are just as difficult to keep as the Heinrich Blumkrauts of the world. So, then we have Hildrun here, and she is into marketing. Marketing in the game will work as such that you can run marketing campaigns, and marketing campaigns are focused on a specific model, or in general on the company image, and they are focused on one main car stat. If you are running a campaign which talks about how awesome this new model is, its sportiness is, then it will increase the awareness of your company in all demographics that care, or for this model, in all demographics that care about sportiness. to various degrees. So if you are advertising sportiness, then the track day folks will notice it most, while people who are really into off-road vehicles probably don't give a shit. So that's how it's working. And then, as you can see, the specialist skills here are making you able to target different things like economy, practicality, like the secondary stats. And then there are some other elements. Of course, these people marketers at least, will not be in the next update because we don't have marketing yet. But while we were at it, I just sat down and designed those as well. So yeah, Winfried Gerter will definitely make an appearance though, at least a few examples of this to put in your factory. Alright, so now one final thing here is what does sigma and mu mean? Mu is the expected value of quality in this case, and sigma is the spread of quality. And for this we just go over here, where I already have hammered out some kind of dependencies for the sliders. Ignore these are much nicer now. And you can see here the automation slider has these various effects, and if we change them, let's see, so if we up the tooling quality and look at this graph, then you will see that a higher tooling quality will in general shift production quality to higher levels, and also the decline over time will be lower. So what you're seeing here is green is right at the start of production, at 3 years time, running at, how many shifts are they running here in this example? 3 shifts. So let's put it down to 2. If you're only working 2 shifts, then things don't get worn as quickly. And 3 years and 5 years. And 5 years, if you're working 3 shifts, then things get pretty bad unless you've invested a lot of time or a lot of money into your tooling. Here you have the slowdown over the years at the current quality threshold and the resulting callback rate for a batch of cars. Alright, okay, that's in-depth enough, I guess. So let's jump to topic number 3. In the last topic for today, we are going to take a look at some early drafts of some new UI, which might or probably will make its way into the Unreal version of the game. Now that we are working on the Unreal version for good, and it's going pretty well, we're progressing nicely, we have a chance of taking another look at our design, and in some ways it might want to change. As for example, the selection of models and trims or families and variants. That doesn't seem to be really intuitive right now, and that is a place where we can improve. So we sat down and thought about how can we improve it? What other selection methods would be interesting or flow well and be intuitive? Well, one which we came up with for the general selection of things is a tile-based model. And the very first draft of one, there is more drafts coming here. I'm going through the series of steps which we iterate through in order to get somewhere which is acceptable. So the first mock-up looks like this, and not very pretty, but you can see how it's working basically. So you have the family of the engine here, and then the various variants listed horizontally right next to it, with a bit of an indicator what it really is and which year it was made in to the left. And now let's just go through quickly the various iterations and see how a design progresses towards which is kind of decent, from terrible to decent. And you see change and change, and here we are somewhere where it might be good. And this is the final one, the final draft of this kind of setup. And now let's take a look at it. So the background colors are marking what state the current trim or variant is in. Red means it's in design, orange is in engineering, yellow is engineered but not in production, and green is in production while grey is discontinued. And you see the numbers +4 and +2. That is how many variants you are not seeing right now. But by clicking on the +4 or the +2, you scroll to either side, but also you could drag and just get there manually. And then the same goes vertically. You see how many families you're currently not seeing, and they are right now sorted by like relevance. For example, you care about green stuff and red stuff, all colored stuff basically, while you don't care about discontinued things. So yeah, that's that. And now let's take a look at some redesign for the bottom UI. If we just plain transport the look of the current UI to something which is a bit more consistent in color theme, the final version of this, let's go there, and you can see how it progresses through it, making the timeline nicer, trying out a few things, and here we are at the final draft of the bottom UI. And what you can see is it looks suddenly so organized, because it's not all over the place anymore. The distances are all normed, and the sliders are all in the same position, or text is in the same position for every title, and so on. So that gives a bit of more consistent theme. So what I try to do with this here, what we try to do with this here, is to create an UI which you are going to work with, playing the game, play with, for an extended amount of time. And if you noticed in the game currently, it is pretty blue and dark, and that is not the best UI to work with a long time. So one theme which we had going already in our current UI is that all things you can interact with, or well, we're not always consistent with that, but all things you can interact with are red in some aspect. And we followed through this a bit more thoroughly with this draft. The realistic viewport, or realistic-ish viewport view, kind of nicely offsets the almost too simplistic UI look down below. But in clarity, if you compare the current UI with this one, it's just worlds of difference. And I think working in this UI, as you see it here in the draft, will be much easier and more pleasant over a longer period of time. Also hopefully a bit more intuitive, because everything is just a bit more consistent. So that is kind of the design work which goes into it, and I hope you appreciate us showing you some poor drafts as well. And anyway, so I think that concludes it. You are, of course, very much welcome to comment on what you see here. I hope you had a good start into the new year, and of course, hope you enjoyed, and see you guys next time.